Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. Great to have you in the conversation today. Let's start right at the top on the soundbite roster, the video clip roster. We talked about this yesterday. Marco Rubio delivered the GOP, the official GOP response to the State of the Union address. That's a nerve-wracking time. And, guys have had some pretty notable misfires. I mean, Bobby Jindal, back in 2009, after President Obama got elected, he delivered the GOP response right after President Obama's first inaugural State of the Union speech. And I don't know who got to him, but he was like catatonic. He wasn't the Bobby Jindal that I've always seen, who was full of fire, who's articulate, who talks a mile a minute, never misses a beat. This guy, I mean, it was like they had him on Xanax or something. He was just kind of zoned out, and it was not an effective speech. But that's because his handlers got to him. They did to him what John McCain's handlers did to Sarah Palin. And anyway, it didn't work. It was not a very effective response. I thought Rubio's speech was fine. I thought Rand Paul's speech was far, far better. Played some excerpts. In fact, I've got a couple of sound bites from Rand Paul's his Tea Party response that we are going to play. And by the way, it feeds into something that I predicted back in October, that if the Republicans, if Romney lost the November election, the GOP was finished as a political party. And we're starting to see the signs of fracture in the political party. You've got Karl Rove now. He's out there. He has declared open warfare on conservative Republicans, on conservatives in general, people like you and me, whether you're Republican or not. He's declared war on conservatives. He does not want any genuine conservatives even running in the primaries. He wants to obliterate conservative candidates in the Republican primaries. He wants to take them out. He wants to kneecap anybody who is a genuine conservative. So he has declared war, and he's raising money from a lot of fat wallet people to go to war against conservatives. And then you had Marco Rubio giving the sort of official GOP establishment response to the President's State of the Union speech, and Rand Paul at the same time giving the Tea Party response. So you had two Republicans at the same time giving responses to the State of the Union address. I got a piece in National Journal by Ron Fournier. I won't go through it in detail, but this is what he said, that there are the signs of fracture in the Republican Party right now. One of the scenarios that a lot of Republican leaders are talking about is the possibility that Rand Paul could run in the Republican primaries in 2016. And if he were to lose in the primaries, he could then run as a third-party candidate. And I think that is certainly a possibility. There are even some signs of fracture in the Democrat Party. I think one interesting thing, if Hillary Clinton does not run, and, maybe she will, I don't know. But if Hillary Clinton does not run, there just isn't anybody that I see. Now, President Obama came out of nowhere, so it can happen again. I don't see anybody in the Democratic Party that could catch the lightning in the bottle the way that Barack Obama did. I think the Democratic Party is going to be in trouble fielding a candidate in 2016. I think Hillary, frankly, would be a disaster for them. But apparently it's kind of, everybody thinks it's hers if she wants to do it. So anyway, there are some strains in the Republican Party right now. But going back to clip number one, Marco Rubio, I mean, if you listen to the liberals, they said, hey, what the Republicans, the problem with the Republicans is that they got an old white guy. And I said at the time, that's not the problem. The problem is not that Mitt Romney is old and white. The problem is he's not a conservative. That's the problem. And if he loses, he will lose because he wasn't conservative. And that's going to lead to these incredible stress fractures in the Republican Party. But anyway, the liberals said, no, your problem is you got a candidate that's too old and too white. You need to get somebody that's young. You need to get somebody that's hip. You need to get somebody in there that's got some ethnic thing going on. That's what you need. That's what the liberals told us. That's the guy you got to get. The implication being that we would like a candidate like that. That's our kind of guy. If you do that, why, we'll think that's terrific. Well, here Marco Rubio has this glitch in the middle of his State of the Union response. He stops for about 10 seconds to take a sip of water out of a water bottle because he's thirsty. He's parched. He's nervous. I understand that. I've been there. You've been there. Sometimes you just get thirsty. You got to take a drink of water. Now, what happened is yesterday, the cable outlets replayed the video of Marco Rubio reaching for that water bottle 200 times. 200 times they replayed that video. Rachel Maddow on her program had it running endlessly as a loop down on the corner of the screen. So they didn't even talk about what he said, hardly. I mean, nobody even remembers what Marco Rubio said because all everybody's talking about is the fact that he glitched and took a sip out of the water bottle. So here's just an example. This is clip one. This is Wolf Blitzer. And the speculation here is amazing. They think that this could be the end of Marco Rubio's political career. The fact that he got thirsty, took a drink from a water bottle, it could be game over for him. Let's listen.
So can a drink of water make or break a political career? A U.S. Senator, possible presidential candidate, going to find out whether he likes it or not. A social media frenzy started when the senator made an awkward pause, there it is right there, to take a sip of water.
So that's Wolf Blitzer openly speculating on CNN. This is the end of the road for Marco Rubio. His career's over before it even got started. Because, I mean, it's just absurd. It's ridiculous. But it's another thing that tells you, it's foolish for Republicans to pay any attention. I mean, we need to be aware of what they're saying. I'm not saying we just kind of close our eyes and plug our ears. But I'm talking about paying attention to what the mainstream media says about Republicans or conservatives. We should just ignore it. We want to be aware of it, but in terms of responding to it, trying to deal with it, trying to correct it, trying to undo what they say, there's no point in it. Because it doesn't matter if a guy is a conservative or has a reputation for being a conservative, they're going to blast him and they'll find some way to do it. Marco Rubio ought to be the guy that they would love. They would be making excuses for him for this water glitch if you were to believe what they were saying back during the campaign. But if you are a guy that goes around shooting innocent people because you've got a grievance with the Los Angeles Police Department and you're a black guy, then all of a sudden you are a hero. I want to play you 3 sound bites. This is this Christopher Dorner guy. Remember, he shot 4 people in cold blood, 4 innocent people. Well, one of them was in a firefight, but 3 of them, he just ambushed them and shot them dead. These are innocent people. He took the law into his own hands. He was a vigilante, and he is being lionized by the left. Now, here is CNN. This is Mark Lamont Hill, and this guy used to be a Fox News contributor, but everything is race with this guy. And I think Fox News finally got tired of him and cashiered him. But he says, hey, there's a real upside to this Christopher Dorner homicidal rampage. Let's listen.
This has been an important public conversation that we've had about police brutality, about police corruption, about state violence. I mean, there were even talks about making him the first domestic drone target. I mean, this is serious business here. I don't think it's been a waste of time at all. And as far as Dorner himself goes, he's been like a real-life superhero to many people. Now, don't get me wrong. What he did was awful. Killing innocent people is bad. But when you read his manifesto, when you read the message that he left, he wasn't entirely crazy. He had a plan and a mission here, and many people aren't rooting for him to kill innocent people. They're rooting for somebody who was wronged to get a kind of revenge against the system. It's almost like watching Django Unchained in real life. It's kind of exciting.
So that's Mark Lamont Hill, man. He said, this is a great part of the conversation. This guy's going around shooting innocent people. This is a great conversation starter about racial grievances, about police brutality, about racism in America. That's what we ought to be talking about. And he says, yeah, this guy's killed some innocent people. I'm not real crazy about that. But, he's like a superhero. And people understand that, look, this guy had a plan. This guy wasn't crazy, not completely, partly maybe. But Mark Lamont Hill said, man, he had a plan. He had a mission. He had been wronged, and he was out to get revenge. And, man, there were a whole lot of people that were rooting for him, just like Charles Bronson in Death Wish. Now, here is another, and I don't know who this guy is. He was another pundit that was on CNN talking here, clip 3, talking here about Christopher Dorner, who probably got burned to a crisp inside that cabin, by the way. I guess they're still not confirming that it was him, but I don't know who else it could be. So anyway, here's another one of these liberal pundits talking about Christopher Dorner. You think about it, all anybody ought to be saying, this is horrible. This is abominable what this guy has done. This guy should not be allowed to live. If he'd lived, if he'd survived, this guy ought to be hung by the neck until dead. I mean, give him a fair trial and get the witnesses in there that saw him shoot these people, the evidence there, and then hang him from the nearest tree by the neck until dead. But instead, we've got liberal pundits talking like this.
Do you think that this should serve as a catalyst for a conversation talking about racism in the LAPD? I think this is
Absolutely.
really, I think this is really even beyond just talking about the LAPD, though. I think the issue is that you'll always have people on social media who support these villains. I mean, there are James Holmes fans.
But is this the same thing?
Social media too.
Jack, is it the same thing?
I think there's something to. I think there's some part of it that's just social media weirdness. But I think there's also something to it in that the narrative of Christopher Dorner doesn't. I mean, in some ways, it resembles a Denzel Washington movie where someone is wronged and he stands up for himself and it goes down in a blaze of glory.
So he's just Denzel Washington. He's a movie star. He's a Hollywood idol. He's been wronged, and he's out to set things right. And it's exciting. It's fun to watch this. He's going to go down in a blaze of glory. What a kick in the pants. Now, here is Chris Matthews. Now, Chris Matthews is a guy that used to actually be a journalist. In fact, I even think he guest hosted for Rush Limbaugh on occasion. But listen to me. This guy is out on a homicidal rampage, shooting innocent people, kidnapping innocent people, getting in a firefight with law enforcement. And here is how Chris Matthews processes it.
How do you write a story like this that's objective for the big metropolitan paper, the Los Angeles Times? Are there people in your newsroom, editors, are saying, we have to be careful here. It's not simple. This man may have a complaint.
Well, I think, we did a story that this past Monday that really looked at the Board of Rights hearing, which seems to be kind of center stage in his complaints against the LAPD that led to his firing. I mean, I think you have to look at all aspects to be objective.
So Chris Matthews and this writer for the LA Times got to be objective. You got to consider the possibility that this guy, it's not that simple. This guy might have had a complaint. Now, let me ask you, did anybody, when George Tiller was shot, universally condemned by every pro-lifer, but George Tiller shot in the lobby of his church, did you ever hear Chris Matthews say, it's not that simple. We've got to ask the question, does this guy have a legitimate complaint? Maybe this is an occasion for a conversation about the sanctity of life issue. No, they never said anything like that. Or think about the shooting of Gabby Giffords. Did anybody say, I wonder if that guy had a complaint? It's not that simple. Maybe he had a legitimate complaint. Maybe he had some legitimate grievances. No, it's only when they can drag the issue of race into it. And Denzel Washington. Focal Point AFR Talk.